John T for the Boxing Voice. I'm joined again by English heavyweight champion Fabio Wardley, good friend of the show. How you doing, mate?
I'm good. How's things with you, John? Everything all right?
Yeah, really good, thanks. Really good. So, what you been up to today? Sparring today?
Not today. No, Tuesday is some boxing and quite a heavy kind of hit cardio day. Some core work as well, working on them abs, and then just some mobility and stuff to finish off. Just make sure I keep everything nice and flexible. Don't get too rigid and stiff. So yeah, full on day today, but it's all good.
Excellent. So, have you started camp now? Because what date have you got? You're in the garden. You're on the third date.
I'm on the second date. I'm in the middle. So I'm on August the 7th. Yeah, I've been in camp for over 6 weeks or so now. Probably longer than that. Probably about coming up to about seven weeks or so. Because I kind of knew a rough date of when I was going to be fighting. And I'm always in the gym anyway. So I like to start camp quite early on, just to get a head start on things and make sure that when the phone does ring at the opportunity, whenever it does call, that I'm ready and I can't say there's no excuses to say no, I'm not ready.
Yeah, it's always good and high profile to get on the summer shows, which is starting to be a yearly thing in Eddie's Garden, I think. So I'm sure there's lots of you that want to get on that card. So I won't dwell too much on the Gibraltar card because, as you know, but for the fans who aren't aware, we've had you on the show already. Since then, another great win against Eric Molina, and it seemed the whole experience out there was fantastic. So you're now slated in to fight Nick Webb. I think he is your mandatory. How do you feel about that fight, and what do you think he'll bring?
Yeah, fine. Fine, absolutely fine. The Nick Webb fight is something I've been chasing for over a year now. Since conveniently, the last fight camp is where we initially wanted to stage that and do that. So it's something I've been on at the team about. I've been on Eddie about, but for whatever reasons, Nick had his reasons for saying no and not wanting to do it, and outright refused to fight me at certain points. So yeah, for it to be made mandatory and come around and kind of had to be done is a saving grace almost, and kind of forced his hand into it and made him have to fight me, which is good.
What did you think of his performance? He was obviously on the same card as you out in Gibraltar. It was quite explosive. Were you impressed by that?
Yeah, relatively. I don't think Pfeiffer, as much as he's kind of part of Dylan in that sense and whatever, I don't think he came with the right game plan. I think he, to be honest, to me, in my view, I think he got a bit starstruck by the whole event, went into his shell, didn't kind of, just the whole moment of everything seemed to have get to him. He didn't seem like that guy from that big amateur guy that we know about, that we know he's got that pedigree from. So, yeah, that was an interesting fight, and like, don't get me wrong, credit to him, he won, he got the win. I didn't see anything in there that was particularly outstanding or anything new that I'd not seen from Nick before, but he did well and he did the job and he ticked it off.
No disrespect to Nick at all. I know there's a lot of experts and journos in the field and a lot of fans on the websites I read. They kind of hinting that your level's above him maybe now, and that they were expecting something bigger from you. Do you think he'll bring you a test? Do you see that your level's above him, or do you see it as quite a close fight?
No, I know I'm levels above him. But at the same time, I still have some of my professional apprenticeship to go through in terms of learning fights and building fights. And just, it's not just that, it's a good fight. It's two good domestic level English fighters for the English title on an English stage. It's just a good fight as a whole. So I'm never one to turn down any fight, let alone a good fight. So that's not a problem at all. But yeah, I know for a fact that I'm levels above Nick. Like I've had 11 fights. I'm already ranked way higher than him. None of the opponents that he's fought or even beat have come anywhere close to the same ones that I've fought and beat. So the stats don't lie in that sense, that I'm already there. But the fact that he's coming off a good win, he's coming off a bit of encouragement and positivity as about himself will bring a new game to him, and I think it will have a bit of fire to him, which will make for a good fight.
Yeah, I think the word momentum, I would say, he's definitely got some momentum coming into it. Do you think that he will maybe give you a bit more respect than his previous fighters? Are you expecting him to just come and walk you down? Or do you think he'll be a bit more cagey because he is stepping up in levels?
I'll be honest, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how he'll approach it. I'm not too sure. With the Pfeiffer fight, I think he walked him down, but I think Pfeiffer let him walk him down and gave him nothing really to worry about. Whereas with me, Nick may choose to try and walk me down because he's the bigger man. He may want to try and impose his size. He's always been a very big guy. So he may want to do that, or he may be a bit cagey about my speed, about my kind of, not my flexibility, but the way I float around the ring, my movement and stuff. And that may put him on edge slightly, and he may want to box a bit different. So who knows what he'll bring, but either way, it's going to be the same outcome.
Confident as always, mate. So should you come through, as I'm sure you think you will there, and I do always try and press you for this one, but you're always so level-headed and grounded, where do you see your next fight? Because I think you articulated it really well. 11-0. You are still learning on the job, as you said. We know from the background that we talked about before that you haven't got like that extensive amateur pedigree that a lot haven't. Do we see you start going up those levels even more soon, though, or are you still learning for a few more fights?
I think we've still got a couple more to do at the learning stage. I think someone it's a difficult one because we're still all waiting to see what Joe does with the belts and things. If he vacates them, then that leaves a lot of options and a lot of vacancies in terms of good fights. But a good fight would be someone like Nathan Gorman for the British, or Cash Ali as well is another opponent who'd be a good name to fight on a domestic level. So there's still some good domestic fights out there that I'm looking to tick off the list. I'm not, just because I came off that Eric Molina win and he was of a high level and a high profile, doesn't mean that I'm looking to go for them fights every time. I still do have some, like I say, professional kind of learning to do.
Yeah, and I think when we talked last time, you probably got some learning out of that last fight, although you won convincingly in the end. A couple of things you went back and looked at, and you're learning on that in each fight. Well, I've got to ask you a question. We got another friend of the show. We've had him on a couple of times from the other side of the water, Christopher Lovejoy. He loves the Instagram, and he's been calling you out quite a lot recently. What are your thoughts on that?
He's useless and a waste of time, like completely. Like, the thing is, he was an anomaly. Like, we didn't know when the whole Dave Allen thing came around. We didn't know. We saw, I think, I don't know, he was 16, 17-0 maybe, and we didn't know what we was getting from him because all his fights were in Mexico, and we didn't know what he kind of brought to the table. But once he had that jar fight, we all saw very quickly that he brought nothing to the table whatsoever. And like I'm sat here saying that I'm levels above Nick Webb, I'm thousands of levels ahead of Christopher Lovejoy. Or as much as he might be 17-1, as much as he might be well ranked, and as much as he might have a nice bit of chat about him to build some followers and to build some hype, overall, in the scheme of things, it does nothing for me. So I have no interest. And to be fair, I only have myself to blame because I goaded him into that one just when I got a bit bored, really, just to have someone to play around with on Twitter, and then kind of he's not really let it go. So yeah, I've got myself to blame for that one.
Yeah, I'm sure Eddie could sell a flipping fight in a phone box anyway. So if it did come off, I'm sure there'll be a lot of interested people in there. One or two people still think, has he got anything to give? But maybe was exposed at his last time out against a great opponent, Manuel Charles. Well, we wish him his best wherever he goes next. Speaking of the other side of the water, though, a close friend of yours, I think he manages you, Dillian. It looks like his next one or two fights might be in America. Have you heard about that? Is that looking like that'll happen?
Yeah, from speaking to Dylan and the team and stuff, I know he wants to box in America. I know he wants to. In terms of when and in terms of the opponent is still very questionable at the moment. He obviously wants to find the right opponent. He wants to he's fought in America before, but not make a statement. But he wants to, obviously, he's been through some good and rough fights. He needs to have more of a leveled fight now, someone of a good name, someone recognizable, but also someone of a worthy opponent. So he's working his way through that. But I definitely know he does want to fight in America before the end of the year.
And would that be something that would interest you, because you fight a lot on his cards, managed by him, close with him, which is great exposure for you? Maybe going over to America with him? Is that too early in your career, or just gets you a bit more exposure over there?
No, America is something we've already spoken about with the team. It's definitely something we've already spoken about. Time frame wise, if I fight in August, I think the chat is maybe that he'll fight in September, depending on when. It might be doable, it might not. There's a lot of kind of moving parts and a lot of factors, but regardless, I'll be there with him. Even if I'm not fighting, I'll be there next to him. I'll be there with him. So that's a definite. But whether or not I'll actually be fighting is a different story entirely.
It'd still be great to go out there and be part of that camp. And who knows, by then we might even be able to have some fans come over there for Dillian, because it looks like things are relaxing a little bit there. So that would be great. In terms of, we talked about yourself there. We've got 3 big fights coming up there at heavyweight. I always like to get your opinion on it. I always seem to talk to you about Fury v Joshua, which everyone says, well, that's not happening at the moment. So sort of like gone a different way. So first one I was going to ask you about, obviously Fury Wilder 3. That's in 3 weeks. How do you see that going the same way? Do you see that Wilder might have sort of like be a bit of a wounded animal? Is it a dangerous fight for Fury?
I think Wilder's always dangerous. He's already proven that right hand is something special. But to me, that's the only special thing about him. That's the only thing he's got. He is, although he's a one-trick pony, and although it is one hell of a trick, it is still only one trick. And I think Fury has his number. And with Wilder, he's never really been a boxer, like an actual boxer. We've never seen that from him. He's been a great KO artist, a great knockout artist, but he's never been a boxer. And I just don't think in such a short space of time that you can develop that out of him so quickly. So, yeah, I think it's going the same way.
Fair play. I think the bookies have the same thing. In terms of AJ then, so it's a totally different fight now. And I think at first a lot of people were saying maybe AJ's too big for Usyk, but there's a lot of people out there saying that in terms of his style, arguably his boxing skills are as good as anyone out there. Do you think that Usyk poses big problems for AJ, or will the size count on the night?
I think the size will count. Like if you'd have asked me straight after the series of obviously when Usyk won at cruiserweight, and when he was going to step up to heavyweight, and if I thought he was good, if he would beat the likes, or at least cause a lot of trouble for the likes of Joshua, etc., I'd have said, yeah, of course, you're crazy not to think that. But in his performances at heavyweight, I've not been particularly impressed. I don't know what it is. I don't know. It seems, I don't know if we're expecting too much because of how well he did at cruiserweight, or if or something's just missing from his game, or he is just maybe struggling a bit with the adjustment of moving to heavyweight. But none of his heavyweight performances have been like clinical and completely convincing like they were at cruiserweight. So I definitely think that the size will be a factor, that it will be something he'll have to contend with. And I do think Joshua will come out on top on that one.
Yeah, I think you've articulated that really well. I think that maybe when I looked at the Del Boy fight, and listen, Del's a fantastic fighter and he's been in some big fights, but he did seem to struggle with that. And looking at it for me, I was like, is it a weight thing? I mean, he moved around well, but Joshua's even bigger than Del Boy and can probably move.
Yeah.
So be an interesting fight, and hopefully we'll have all the fans there as well. And the last one I was going to ask you, you've got Joe Joyce out against Takam. You've already mentioned Joyce. Clearly, you've got your eye on that Commonwealth and/or British title. If he beats Takam, firstly, do you think he beats him? And if he does, do you think he'll then vacate them belts because he'll be banging on the door of Joshua?
Yeah, I'm confident. I do think he beats Takam. I still think it's a great fight, and don't get me wrong, that just by me saying that doesn't mean I don't think Takam has a chance. But I do think Joe overall is the better boxer. But I think it's just a great fight. They both have really good engines. They both come forward fully get stuck in kind of fighters. So I think it will be an explosive fight, and definitely one to watch, and the fans will fully enjoy. So I'm looking forward to just being able to see it. more than anything else.
Yeah, it's a really good card, actually. I've seen it. It's shaping up well. That's in 3 weeks. And again, fans back there. So really good. Well, look, as always, mate, great catching up with you. It looks like you've got quite a few weeks left to camp. Don't peak too early because you've been in there a while, but I'm sure you'll be ready. And we'll probably catch up with you. Hopefully, we might even be out of come because the media will be out a lot more now. So we'll probably catch you fight week. All the best to you, mate.
Yeah, cool. Sounds good. Cheers, John. Thank you, mate.
Fabio, thanks, mate.
Enjoy the video. Feel free to hit the like, subscribe, and share. As always, if you want to support us to the next level, head over to the patreon.com/ThaBoxingVoice. We have tons of exclusive from Border Wars, from title, betting shows. The list goes on and on and on. But in addition to that, if you guys have questions for fighters, trainers, and promoters, this is where you can submit them. We will run out, get these questions answered, and put it back on the show just for you guys. Appreciate it. Peace.